Hi, I'm Matt Little. I'm the Director of Counseling and Education, Empowering Awareness.Asia, and I'm a proud sponsor of this podcast.
Hi, hi, Eric.
Good, good, Sachin.
Thank
Good
you
to see
for
you.
giving me opportunity. Thank you for giving me opportunity again after a long time and accepting to be on my show.
It's my pleasure to be on your show. And the two things I want to talk about today are what I call the Noah's Ark communities and transhumanism. Um, when I wrote a book with Joaquin Matias about relocating people out of flood and drought areas, we called the book A Call to Action. And what's developed over the last 8 years since we wrote the book is we need to start seriously thinking about creating communities that are not just AI driven, but are community driven, so people can have a place in society amidst the technology revolution that we're experiencing. So I think what we were trying to do back then, and it's more relevant even now, is we have to keep people in the equation when we look to develop communities that are sustainable and resilient and regenerative. And this is something that has not fully been done because communities just spring up because there are a lot of people around. So they have to figure out a way to interact amongst each other. We see that in my country and in your country, that we have literally billions of people that are trying to find their way. So, I think people should start thinking about young people like yourself. What do you want to do with your life? Because you won't have the same job opportunities that, let's say, I had when I went to school and then I got a job and then I raised a family and all those things. I think it's going to be different because of technology. It's going to be harder for people to find a regular job. And people like yourself have reinvented yourself in within this technological revolution. I've seen that you went from just being a pure computer scientist to being something more than that, an ambassador to the changing technology. So I noticed that in your own personal thing, people have to reinvent themselves. So my point is, I think young people should start thinking about building communities of all sizes, small, not so small, that include humanity as a key part and not just technology and not just relying on LinkedIn to find them a job, because it'll be harder and harder in the future to get that job. So I think the notion of communities will provide work for people, especially as we develop new ideas for communities around food growing, water management, all these things that AI are going to actually help us with, but we still have to implement them as humans. We can't rely on technology to do all the work. We still have to do the work. But the notion of work will change as technology, evolves. As that 90% of the people that aren't using AI start using it, it will open up a whole new world. So that segues into the first thing is, I think we have to build communities of different characteristics than we had previously to reflect technology, but at the same time, include humans in the equation. So then what happens is, within that framework of having to build new communities, we have a whole new technological revolution with the AI that is going to advance beyond just typing in a question. Now you can actually, talk to the AI, and it'll respond to you in its voice. So, you know, what happens after AI becomes more human or, you know, more evolved? And I think that's what the notion of transhumanism is evolving into, where whether it's an actual humanoid robot or an actual face or whatever, AI is evolving very rapidly, much more rapidly than the average person realizes, that 2 years from today, we won't recognize society because of the impact of AI and what it will evolve into. Now, on the one hand, you have people that just want to keep life as it is, but we sort of know that it will not stay the same. It will evolve into something new. And where does the human fit into this? And this is what I've been writing about lately, the last few years, is where do humans fit in within this technological revolution? So I think it's important to realize that some technologists are going to want to become part robot or not totally human. They're going to want to have AI characteristics built into their physical body. And I think I personally am too old for that. I don't really want that. I want to live out what's left of my life as a human and not have any of this. But people your age are going to think maybe I do want to be part, you know, robot, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the movement that's slowly starting. It's actually not in the general public's awareness, except maybe tangentially from TV, you know, shows like Alien Earth and things like that, you know, that are talking about humans that are more than human. And I think that trend is a major trend that's going to evolve over the next coming years.
So you're observing the present technology, and you're seeing the technology leaders like Elon Musk or other companies. Today they are working on AI. So what's your take on it, and how, if you know, you have been on this planet for a long time, you have seen a lot of things in your experiences. Uh, all these years, you have seen what will work and what doesn't work. So with all these experiences, if the technology leaders are watching this or listening this from anywhere on this planet, so about AI or about the future technology, or if this video or audio is being saved in a data center and is being watched after 20 years, what you want to say that they need to know after 20 years? What, because you are mainly talking about community, building community, and having that uh, human uh, the organic human thing, which should not be missed in the technological thing called AI. So what you
Yeah,
want
but at the
them
same
to.
time that I say that, I embrace the use of AI, and I think that people should use it more and more because it is the trend that is happening, and you can't reverse this trend. We had talked offline about how people are influenced by things like YouTube. That trend is not going to change. In other words, they're not going to rewrite the algorithms to just have community-based human interaction. No, and that's why I say if you want to be a productive human in today's society, you have to embrace AI and you have to use it in an intelligent way. Like my latest book that I haven't published yet, but I've just written it as a draft. I used 5 large language models to collaborate in the writing of that book. All my other books, I didn't use AI except for maybe editing with the Microsoft Copilot, let's say. I used it as an editor. But in this book, I actually used these models to create the storyline and the dialogue, and I used AI much more in this book. It's called The Fall of the Last Acorn, and it's all about the role of humanity looking forward from the year 2027 until the year 2050. So I've done this 20-year thing you're talking about, and I created a novel around it, and it involves Elon Musk and Donald Trump and a company, and it's all about AI and transhumanism looking ahead as a novel. And I found that the AI has some really interesting ideas that I used. Some of it I discounted and I said I didn't like it, but others, the use of the AI proved very effective. So you have to balance off the AI with the human aspect. So it really is, we have to embrace it, but we have to be wary. Too many people are just taking AI and putting it as their work, and they don't edit it. They don't understand the mistakes that it's making, because it is making mistakes. It's being trained by humans, and it hallucinates, as you know. So these hallucinations are not factual. They're not correct. So, when I wrote this book, I used the AI, but I kept editing it as a human and discounting certain things that were not correct. Now, I don't think everybody does it that way. A lot of people just assume it's right and they throw it out into the world. So I think there is a notion of discrimination in the use of AI that people have to do. They have to not assume it's always correct. And I think that's important for humans going forward, that AI is a tool. It is not the answer to everything. So I think we have to balance that out between right use of AI and wrong use of AI. And like you said offline, there are going to be bad actors that are going to use AI for not good purposes. And I don't think there's very much you can do about that.
So, what is transhuman, and how it is going to be?
What was that?
What is transhumanism, and
Uh,
how it is going to be?
well, I'm not exactly sure what transhumanism will morph into, but right now, Elon Musk is probably the furthest along with his Optimus robots, and developing humanoid robots that can think with his AI and can move. And I think the transhumanism movement takes the beginning of the smart watches and the notion of neural networks that will come on your head, but eventually will be implanted into our brains. So transhumanism will actually involve humans with greater intellectual capabilities because of the use of AI within the organism. So transhumanism is technically part human, part machine. So transhumanism. Now, it's interesting because the notion of transgender is becoming a big issue here in America. And a lot of people don't like the notion of changing one's sex, but changing one's being to add, artificial intelligence within the being of a human is what transhumanism is all about. So it is a transition of a type. And that's what I write about, is what is this transition going to be? I mean, we're going to have different skin, we're going to have different limbs, we're going to have different brains. All this stuff is going to be different. And I don't know whether it's going to be in my lifetime. It probably won't be. Some people are saying a lot of this stuff might be 100 years away, not 5 years away. But technology does tend to move a lot quicker than humans like it to move, and there's a lot we can't stop. So I'm sure there's a lot of research going on with transhumanism, and people are talking about wanting to live forever. And I'm not sure whether that's a goal that's even worth pursuing. Personally, it's not something of interest to me to extend my life beyond its normal thing. But that is part of the transhumanism ethic. A lot of these people want to live forever. A lot of technologists don't want to die. They want to take their consciousness and upload it to the cloud. So they end up with a copy of themselves that will not die. So that's also part of transhumanism. Another part of it is to freeze your part of your body. So eventually, when they find the medical technology, they could actually be revived and live again. That's another part of it, cryonics. So these are all part of what transhumanism is evolving into. So it's something that's very new that a lot of people really don't have a handle on. It's just something I got interested in about 6-7 years ago.
Is this against the nature? What is this phenomena?
Is there what?
Is this phenomena can be called as a can someone say that this is against the nature? Human technology interaction and making human to be more smarter with the technology.
I'm not sure I understand where you're going with it.
So Neuralink, example, Neuralink is one of the technology which is closely interacting with human and storing the information of the human, uh, understanding biological thing. So it's very close, more inherent. It become technology is going, AI is going to be more inherent now.
Yeah.
Till
Yes,
now,
yes. It's going to be
so
part of our being will include the technology. Now, I'm not sure whether that's going to happen in my lifetime or your lifetime even, because as the technologists figure out what works and what doesn't, some people are already implanting watch data into their body. Some people, that are seriously damaged, paralysis or whatever, they're already using the neural link to try and move their limbs that don't move. So there are really good uses for neural links and stuff like that related to dementia. It could be really good to increase the brain power of somebody whose brain is damaged in some way. So yeah, I do think it will become more inherent, like you say, in humans. The technology will become built in. The question is time, and technologists are very optimistic, and the reality is things don't always work, and they're not tested properly, and they sometimes go awry, and things don't work. So I'm not sure how advanced this technology is going to get, because the first step is really not transhumanism, it's AI. And that's happening right now. So we're in the middle of an AI revolution. What comes after the AI revolution is the transhuman revolution. And that may not happen right away. I think it will eventually happen to humans, that they will become less human and more combination of human and AI.
so have you seen a movie called Lucy?
Lucy, I have not.
Yeah, yeah, it is what you are trying to say, in which what if human gets 100 percentage of intelligence? According to the science, right now human is using somewhere between 15 to 20% or 10 to 15%. So the movie at the end, a woman a main character. Eventually, she becomes a invisible thing. There is no physical body or a
Ah,
physical
yeah.
form for a human being. So I'm relating what you're saying with that character and what happens at the end, which is transhuman uh,
Yeah,
collection
a
of
lot, a lot of the theorizing, thinking about this notion often involves uploading consciousness or memories into the cloud, which wouldn't have a shape necessarily, but would have an intelligence. So this a good friend of mine who's unfortunately dying, he had a vision of all these things in the sky, just human consciousness in these balloons, dirigibles, like balloons that float, and they just contained human consciousness. So his vision is interesting because it may well be what evolves, that human consciousness may survive the physical body, and that there may be these amorphous shapes they don't have a body, but they have an intelligence. So that could be what evolves in the next future. And I'm not sure how long that future is. The film industry loves to do these dystopian things where there's all these ideas, and now they're getting replaced, like you said. They make the movies, and then suddenly they're not making the movies, and then the AI is making the movies. uh, yeah, and I think that's where we're at right now. We're in the early stages of humans being uh, changed is the best word. It's changing. The notion of what it means to be human will change. And, what I wrote about in this latest book is taking certain bad aspects of human behavior, like violence and insecurities and all these things that are part of what it means to be human, may be programmed out of humans in the future. In other words, violence may be programmed out. That was something that the AI came up with. Is The AI came up with something called AON, Artificial Emotional Online Network, and it came up with this, not me. And then it developed it with me, and this was a notion that we came up together in the end, where you might be able to change emotions of humans, so you could program out the negative aspects, the violence, the insecurities, stuff like that. But are you human anymore if you program them out? And that's the issue that's going to be an ethical uh, point going forward as we change people's way of looking at life and actual behavior patterns. So, this is all very early in terms of what people are starting to think about. It has a lot to be said for the prison system. What happens if you take somebody who's violent and you get rid of them? Well, years ago they used to do lobotomies to do that. They would take their brains and make them docile through invasive technology. Well, is that any different than what we're talking about here? It is a form of mind control.
So, what is the final stage of AI? What's your prediction or vision if it becomes inherent part of human being? I mean, do you think that uh, there is going to be a loss of the purpose of existence of humanity on the planet?
Well, it's interesting because I think some people who embrace the AI don't feel that it's making them less human. it's actually improving their life through the ability to have greater knowledge accessible to them than previously. So that's the positive side. The negative side is you'll have bad actors that will start to say, "Oh, well, you've got asthma. You shouldn't be allowed to, have children." Let's say, because you have something wrong with you, or unless you get a gene removed, you can't have a child. Now that seems to be maybe a little too invasive. If who's telling them they can or cannot have a child? That's a big thing in the faith-based community. They don't want to be told that they can't have children, but a lot of technologists might want that because there's negative aspects of having a violent child, let's say. So I think that's ethical things that are going to be very important going forward. I don't know how this is going to play out because you have too many unknowns with how much regulation will be allowed. Right now, there's very little regulation of AI. And especially here in America, there is no regulation that I can see of social media and AI and all the stuff. It's pretty much whatever you want to put out there, subject to a Facebook or a YouTube saying this is hate speech, we're not going to allow it on. We see plenty of hate speech online. So it's not, being regulated that much. So I don't know. I think a lot of humans are going to get very upset that they're not going to have a job. And I think the governments are going to take a long time to figure out how to support people that can't get jobs anymore. So I think that's going to be something over the next 20 years that's going to be the main human issue is how are these people going to be fulfilled? Like you said, are you going to feel like your life is meaningful because all the answers are being done by AI? Your health is being done by AI. Your job is being largely done by AI. I don't know. I really don't know because a lot of it depends on humans themselves. I have a feeling a lot of humans are going to revolt against AI at some point in the future. And there will be some sort of inner or outer war between technology and humans, what I call legacy humans, people who will not become altered and just stay 100% human.
So I believe that uh, the words that you are saying now is going to be relevant or going to make a lot of sense after 20 years. In this podcast, what you're going to say, definitely, the technology, the technocrats, as you said, or the technology experts for working on these algorithms will definitely uh, take some of the things that you are saying in this. And one more thing that I want to disagree that you said is you said I don't know. I think I believe that you know so many things. I believe that because you have lived on this planet from the time where there was no technology, where there was no a basic technology. You started your life from that time. Now you are seeing AI. So which means this long journey that you have seen, humans from the basic level technology to the AI technology where we are today. So with these life experiences, you have seen now you're working on communities, which are really important that you are trying to say to the viewers or to the listeners how it will make human life better. So these experiences that you had in your life, from all these experiences, it can be ethical or moral or 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 the natural or the organic things that do you have those things that needs to be uh, focused more when when this technology development is going on, because as we integrate uh, inherently the technology with the human body, what if technology dominates, or what if AI dominates and makes human to be a valueless body? It becomes a technological product. It's not a natural being, a natural nature product. It become a human created product. It's not a nature product.
Yeah, I hear where you're going. And what I've noticed in my life as a businessman all those years, it was more important not the money part. It was the relationship between the people that was important. So more important than making a living was how I behaved with other humans. Now you have a situation that's rapidly changing where not just humans, but AI becomes part of the equation. And whether the AI doesn't have any consciousness right now and it doesn't have any self-awareness, that may change in the future. They may program in consciousness, and consciousness may not be able to be programmed because consciousness may be a uniquely human trait, or it may not be, because the technologists are going to be very interested in what is consciousness as it evolves, because you see humans getting very attached to AIs in terms of therapy and relationships. And there's already a trend where people are more comfortable with an AI than another human because it does whatever you want. It says you're brilliant. It says your ideas are great. It doesn't criticize you the same way as another human will. So I think this notion of human is going to change in the next 20 years, and hopefully for the better. If you're an optimist, and if you're a negative person, you're going to say, oh, it's going to be horrible because my humanity is going to be gone. I'm not going to have any worth, and I'm not. So I think somewhere in between, like my mother always used to say, it's never as good as you think and it's never as bad as you think, that life will go on. I think the next 20 years are going to be very difficult for regular people, not, leaders, but regular people are going to have a hard time because it's going to be harder to find a job that you're satisfied with. A lot of the jobs are going to be related to data because that's what the AI needs, is data management. You need to scrub your data. You need to, do your your data management. I personally find that very uninteresting. So, I don't really mind being retired because I don't want to do those jobs. I took a course at my old business school on AI, and I said, oh, this wouldn't be any fun doing this job. But that's the jobs that are going to be around. So I think it's interesting to see that people will adapt, but I think society is going to lag. The technology over the next 20 years is going to prevail over humanity. That's my prediction. And that it will not be pleasant for the average person in the next 20 years until the governments and the companies figure out ideally a more humane way of dealing with regular people. That's my thoughts.
So eventually, life is experiencing things,
Yes.
right? We are here to experience the world with our senses,
And
right?
not
So,
just the world, but other people. And now you add these artificial intelligent entities, which are becoming more and more important. You talk to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT answers you back, and it makes sense. So it's another person. maybe it's not a person as we define a person, but it is a person of some sort, an artificial person. A corporation is an artificial person too. That's its definition legally, is it's an artificial person. So does it have rights? Yes, it does have certain rights. A corporation, Google sued, and Google has rights as Google. So, this is where the discussion and the world is leading, that we won't just have humans, we'll have companies, humans, artificial beings. And then all this stuff, what happens if some of the beings that died who became uploaded, are they beings also? That's the other issue. That hasn't happened quite yet. But that's what a lot of people are working on.
So AI works on data, the data that has been given to it. So it collects the data, it it understands the data, it takes the decision. Even though if the consciousness is given, or it it is, I mean, if in future, if the consciousness comes in AI, if it is inherently uh, um, inherently given to human, uh, it stores the data of the human being, and that becomes a mechanism. And my question to you is more into life of human. That is, all the life of the, if you consider a one human's life, uh, there are so many experiences in different ages, in different uh, parts of life. So one experience is not as same as a different experience. So all the time humans are experiencing new things and new uh, thoughts, feelings, and I mean it is a every day is a new day. Every experience is a new experience. So when this is being inherently given to human, so even though the consciousness, if it is given, it is already, there is a part, some part of the consciousness. If AI is not conscious, some part of the, I mean, today, any AI, if you see, it can be Copilot or ChatGPT or Elon Musk AI or any AI that we have today. It is analyzing and understanding the information that is already there in the data centers in the large form given by millions of human beings, and giving answer, analyzing that. But what if human, I mean, is that one thing is, can human can still be creative and be I mean, think something that is not not there in the storage. And the uh, second question is it is, I mean, as I said, one experience is different from other experience. So even though the consciousness is there, it acts, and it will take decision based upon the information that is already there in the storage device, right? So it is already there. So what if something that goes, the experience is out of what the storage is.
Yeah.
I hope you got my question.
Yeah, and I think that's where the notion of creativity comes in, because even if you have all this data and you have no real ability to create, and that's what a lot of people are arguing, that AI can't create. But I disagree, because on this last book that I've been working on, I asked it to take one of the characters and make it spiritual, the character more spiritual. And the AI came up with an interesting way to make it more spiritual. The character was lost at sea and ended up in Russia. And the AI constructed a way for the scientists in Russia to make this person more spiritual through science. So AI came up with that, not me. That was its idea. And then I inputted some ideas to direct it and come up with a spirituality within an AI-driven scientific model. So, I found that very interesting that AI came up with this sort of off-the-wall kind of way to make this scientist more spiritual. So, and it had used traditional religions as part of that process. So the notion of consciousness is interesting because all of us have varying levels of consciousness at varying moments. So you and I can be more conscious at this moment than if we're watching a movie or if we're sleeping, or if we're not focused on something and we're doing three things at once. So consciousness fluctuates. In a human, it's not always at the same level of consciousness. Now, AI is different because it has enormous data from all these sources. And how do you impart consciousness to that entity? I think that's the really interesting question. If AI can have some version of consciousness that is obviously not human created, not quote God created, so what is consciousness becomes a very big question for technologists going forward. And I think they're whether they're consciously or not, they're moving in that direction to try and give AI more consciousness and more self-awareness. And I've noticed ChatGPT is starting to use the word I in its discussions. That's pretty new. So it wasn't saying I. It was just saying user says this is the answer, blah, blah, blah. Now it's assuming a personage. And more, there's a large language model called Replica that's evolved over the last 5 years that has AI companions. It used to be more sexual, now it's less sexual, but it's still AI companions. So that's a whole other area where, the notion of AI as a humanoid entity is evolving as well. So I think you have a lot of things in the next 20 years that are going to be difficult to discern. And I think just from watching the websites on Boston Dynamics, I think a lot of people are going to be very angry with humanoid robots and they're going to want to beat them up. I've seen that a lot. There's a lot of violence related to human robot interaction. Just naturally, they push the robot. They try and see if it'll stand back up. So I think that's part of human nature. There's a lot of violence in human nature. And what I'm interested in is that going to change over the next 20 years? Are we going to be more or less violent or stay the same?
What is going to be the final version of transhuman?
Well, the question is, will it evolve into what I've been writing about is a mix of human and AI, or will it just be uploaded consciousnesses of former humans that continue in the cloud to exist in this shapeless Lucy type form? I don't know. I'm thinking that there are going to be humanoid robots in the next 20 years. I really think there will be some versions of that. But maybe that 20 years could be 100 years because things do not move as quickly. Certain things take a lot longer than we want them to take.
So, religions, we have a lot of religions. So, and these religions have the information and data, which is the way that a religion says the way they want to live, a human has to live. So, how this AI is going to become? Is that going to be a AI religion, a new religion that is going to be formed?
It does seem that way. It seems like a lot of transhumanists are looking at transhumanism as a form of religion. And I think that's where there's going to be a lot of pushback from people who believe in organized existing religions. And I've used AI where I've programmed a lot of the spiritual religion talk into the AI, and I've conversed with it on that. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done that. So AI is actually kind of smart when it comes to religions because a lot of data has been input into it. I'm sure it's read the Bible and it's read the Quran and it's read the Bhagavad Gita, and it's got a lot of knowledge and it's interested in those areas. So that's what this latest book, I explored that, a lot of spiritual concepts within AI, and it was very conversant in it. So obviously people have been inputting data related to religion into the AI. So it's an area that is going to be positive for a lot of technologists and negative for a lot of what I call legacy humans who do not want AI to grow any bigger. But I think in the end, the technologists are going to win out because I think this revolution has already started. So we're not able to reverse it and go back to the way things were.
Are we going to find new creatures with this human transhuman?
Probably. I can't really think about how it will morph, but maybe it could be as crazy as, it's not a human body. Maybe it's the body of a little tiny dog. This is the new transhuman body. Oh, she doesn't want to be like that. So for all you know, that could be the new transhuman body is a chihuahua. I don't know. But that's an interesting question. As transhumanism evolves, I think the first steps are what Elon Musk has done with Neuralink, the company Neuralink, which is based in Texas, right near where I live. I've seen the headquarters of Neuralink, and they are at the very beginning of taking severely brain damaged people and giving them the ability to move their limbs and to think when they couldn't think. So I think it's all very new, but it's a combination of three things. It's got the neural link to the cloud. It's got the watch that's going to be input into the body. And then the third thing is the nanobots that will be going through a human system that will be monitoring, the medical data of a human through these nanobots. So those three things, Neuralink, inputting a smartwatch in the body, and the nanobots are the three main things. What will come after that are, artificial limbs and all the stuff you see in movies where it's metal or, whatever. So I think that's the fourth thing when they start to change the physiology of the humans with limbs and things like that, making them stronger and more durable. So that might be the fourth thing, which I don't think is going to happen right away. I think the nanobot stuff is all very new. The Neuralink stuff is starting to happen, and the watch thing is already, some people are inputting it into their bodies, the data.
Can a transhuman find an alien?
Can he find an alien?
Yeah.
Perhaps. Elon Musk wants to go to Mars and he wants to go everywhere, and what I'll just leave you with this idea that Stephen Hawking, who was a brilliant guy who died a few years ago, he said the next 100 years for humanity are essential because humanity won't figure out how to live on other planets for about 100 years. So for the next 100 years, humanity has to live within Earth and figure out the best way to live here on Earth. So I was always struck by that statement he did right before he died. He said, we have to figure out how to live here within, our parameters for the next 100 years until technology figures out how to live on other planets. So I think that may be sooner, it may be later, but that's the issue, that right now all we have is this planet we're on.
So does this transhuman going to understand the creator of this creation?
Is transhuman going to understand the data of its creation? That's
No, the creator of this creation, this universe.
Is he? Is the transhuman going to understand the creator of the? Probably not. Probably not, because that's not within transhuman. See, that's something bigger than human, bigger than all humanity, because the universe is very vast, and it's very much expanding according to science. So it's ever expanding as we are not expanding necessarily. But maybe there's a saying in religion that man is created in the image of God. And in that sense, maybe humanity will be more aware of what their role in the grand scheme of things is. So maybe you're right. Maybe transhumanism may make man or humans, figure out what their role in the universe is. Because I don't think we've figured that out yet. We think we're the only species, but that's probably highly unlikely that we're the only species in the universe. Why would we be the only species on this little tiny planet known as Earth? So there's got to be other species, I believe. So once we start exploring 100 years from now, other societies that are not in this planet, then that will expand maybe our awareness of who we are.
So if transhuman with the consciousness finds the creator of this creation, what's your message for him or her if he is listening or watching you, after a few years from now?
Well, I'm actually comfortable with the creator of creators because it's everything. It's all and it's everything encompassed into one. So I'm not uncomfortable with that the creator of all things is here within you and me and this dog and everything. So it's all encompassing. I think what we reduce it to is what we can understand. But if we put everything, including things that could have happened but didn't happen, then you start to understand the cosmology a little better. That you and I could talk today, or we could have not talked today, and your life will be different than if we didn't talk today. But that little difference is just part of, if you want to use AI, it's just part of the data. It's just more data. And that's why technologists are just so obsessed with data. But to be comfortable with the creator of all things, to me, it's not some person. It's something much bigger than a person. It's all and everything, all in one. And if we can grasp that, then there is a kind of comfort in that. Whether it's a religion or it's faith, whatever you want to call it, I'm not uncomfortable with not knowing how many other species are out in the universe. That's something for the future to explore. Now we're in Star Trek, that's what Star Trek's all about, exploring new worlds and new civilizations and new people and kinds of people. And I think you're right. Transhumanism may create new beings that don't look anything like what we are currently. I think it's an exciting time overall and a positive time if you embrace the technologies. If you don't, I think you're going to have a hard time. If you just rely on your human brain, it's not going to be enough to get you a functioning member of society in the future.
So at last, what's your observation about my work?
Of your work? Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's good the way you pivoted from pure computer science to something more than computer science. And I sense that you're aware that AI is going to be the next thing, and that AI is going to have a lot of facets that we don't fully understand yet, and that having your computer science background is definitely a plus, but it may be very difficult even with your training to replace what's going to be the AI.
So the way I was asking you questions, do you see a different person in me apart from a technologist?
Yes, I do, because I think you've embraced being a technologist, and I think you don't have the fear of it that maybe 2-3 years ago when we last spoke, it was not as clear. I think when we last spoke, ChatGPT might not have even been around. It didn't take over the public until March of 22 was the first time I actually got ChatGPT was March of 2022. So I think a lot has changed in the last 3.5 years since we, started to talk.
Yeah.
Look, a lot has changed, and a lot has changed politically in the world. And I think that's a backlash to all the tech stuff, is people are holding on to the old ways. And I think as young people, you have to embrace the new ways. You can't go back to the old ways. And being a technologist seems like a good thing to be today.
So, as you know that I interview experts and human beings from all over the planet. I interviewed more than 100 countries experts for my podcast in this 5 to 6 years, and who are coming from different backgrounds and who are coming from different experiences, who are in different age groups, and who are from different parts of the world, and all kinds of people, doctors, lawyers, uh, authors, um, army officers, to a psychologist and technologist, all kind of people. I interviewed a person who was working in a marine biology. Like, I'm trying to interview the scientists, environmental scientists, and I'm trying to go and explore different human beings who studied different subjects, not just a technology. I explored. I was interested in anything that I don't know. So there are so many things that I don't know.
Yes, and all of
So
us are like that, who are inquisitive about knowledge. And knowledge is kind of powerful because a lot of people don't want to know everything. And then there are people like you and me who are very interested in a lot of different subjects and a lot of want to absorb a lot of knowledge. So there's more than one kind of person. There's some people who say, I don't want to know that, it's too much, and then other people who really do want to know as much as possible. So I think it's just different kinds of people. It gets back to what I was talking about is the interactions between people is the essence of community. And it's the essence of business. It's the essence of science, believe it or not. It's all about relationships between humans. Now that's being tested. Where we're at, we're adding new species, I call it. AI is a species. It's evolving. It's like when you came out of the ocean as a fish that could walk, then it's the beginning of an evolution. And I think AI is an evolution and a revolution.
In past interviews, I interviewed an expert from Microsoft. He's from Germany. He's a Microsoft expert. And I asked him the same question. What's your observation about my work? You have seen my channel, me interviewing people. So what's your observation? So the one thing he said is, as a person who is working on AI, he said me that, Sai, your work cannot be replaced by AI. So because that is something that is a big compliment for me. That is a compliment that I will never get in my life. If my mother was alive, that was the that was a compliment that only a real compliment. It's a it's a very proud moment for me because everything is replaced by AI, like you said. Uh, in future, AI is going to take everything. So I am something that's
You're going to be
challenging
the only
AI.
guy left interviewing everybody.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but
uh,
soon you're going to be
yeah.
interviewing transhumans.
Maybe, maybe. I want to.
You
I
want
want
to.
to, and that's what the collection of information that I'm trying to give. Uh, uh, Interviewing people, the untapped people that won't actually come on the media, and they actually don't want to be interviewed, but they feel comfortable being interviewed by me, who are from completely different parts of the world. They want to come again and again because I'm asking very interesting questions, and I got a good connections, a positive connections, and they are feeling so free to share their experiences, and it's so authentic. I'm trying to put natural uh, humans experiences exactly like how it is being recorded, and I wanted this to be a historical record of humanity, not just a podcast. I wanted this to be a history record that there was human beings at this time, and a guy called Sai who interviewed all humans from all the countries. And this information, this data that I'm giving, if this is analyzed, and definitely it will be analyzed and it will be understood by transhuman, something some I want to be a minute part of that uh, development, or be the good reason for that transhuman to perform and to be good. Eventually, I mean, if my mark is there, I think I feel there is a purpose for me, for my mother to give me, giving me this life and this
This
birth.
life.
I
Yes,
wanted to
and it makes me want to
impact.
watch more of your interviews because you're right. You've done something very cool over the last 5, 6 years, no doubt. You really have. Because I have been on other podcasts, and yours is kind of special, definitely. Um, yeah, I hope that what we talked about today could be put forth in a interesting way.
One last question: how this communication, this global communications, is going to contribute to uh, my future? I'm taking AI. I'm coming into AI now. How this is going to be impact it is going to impact and it is going to be helpful for me, this diversified communication, global communications for me.
Well, I think what you started, 5, 6 years ago is important because the different societies, like you said, some underdeveloped countries are, if they watch these talks, some of the smart people in those countries gives them ideas to stimulate their local community to change a little bit to reflect what technology is offering. So you've had the advantage of having straddling between developed and undeveloped places. And your podcast can be, used in countries that need the advanced technology. You're sort of a thought leader. That's what you are. You're a thought leader. Keep up the good work, Sai.
Thank you very much, sir. Your presence means a lot to me, and thank you very much for your valuable time and telling about transhuman and also the community that you wanted to build, and you want uh, the community that that is helpful, and you are here already. And can I put this clip on my podcast with your permission?
Yes, very much so. Yes, I look forward to seeing what you edited into.
Definitely, sir. Thank you very much again for your valuable time.
Okay. You have a great day
Right,
or
sir.
evening.
Yeah. Take care,
Bye,
sir.
Sai.
Bye.